Welcome to Passport Required. I'm Kim Covert, owner and lead travel designer at Silverleaf Travel.
And I'm Gary Covert. Together, we are on a mission to help experienced travelers and would-be travelers get even more informed, inspired, and get moving so that they can enjoy great travel experiences and make memories that will last.
We believe that travel offers so many opportunities to improve the quality of our lives. Travel helps us learn more about the world, ourselves, and those closest to us. It keeps us vibrant, fresh, and connected, and travel helps us celebrate life.
We invite you to join the Silverleaf Travel Facebook page so that we can amplify our impact and help people get off of and stay off of what we'd like to call Someday Island.
We know you're going to love this episode, so let's get after it. Hi, everyone. It's Kim Covert with Silverleaf Travel.
And this is Gary Covert.
And thank you for listening to another episode of Passport Required. I'm super excited about this episode. We're going to be interviewing a good friend of ours, Monique. She had a destination wedding in Jamaica, February of 2022, and I helped her with the travel portion of her destination wedding. And so we interviewed her to talk about her tips and tricks and things to do or not to do when planning a destination wedding. This was a great interview. I'm very excited.
I love this episode because she's got so much energy, plus the scale of her destination wedding. And I'll let her explain just how big this thing was. But it was pretty amazing.
So it was a great team effort. We really enjoyed it, learned a lot, and I hope you do too. Hi, everyone. This is going to be a wonderful episode because this is our very first interview and with Monique.
I'm excited about today's episode for two reasons. One is because who is on, and then second, because of what we're talking about. So let's get with the who, and then we'll talk about the what. The who is Monique Porras. So Monique is one of my favorite friends. I know you professionally for years, and professionally, you are one of the top executive recruiters, certainly here in Phoenix, and I think nationally. The Kempington Group is just a phenomenal organization, very well recognized, and you have been time and again acknowledged as one of the top female leaders around. So I admire you so much professionally.
That was a fantastic introduction.
I agree.
I got more. Got good material to work with.
Absolutely.
So I admire you so much professionally, but then I'm so glad that we're also friends. And then you connected with Kim because you have a life outside of your professional life. And part of that included you getting engaged. And from there, lots of dominoes got moving. So before we dive into the topic of destination weddings and the work that you and Kim did together, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, a little bit about myself. So I'm based in Phoenix now, right? But I am originally from the East Coast. So I am, to be specific, the Washington, D.C. market, right? So I spent tons of time there and between East and West Coast. And I think on my business and friendship relationships, I've got a network that spans out pretty wide, which would therefore impact this wedding that I had. But I'm just owning the recruiting firm. I think just being networked in Phoenix is a big deal for me. And just bridging relationships, growing that. I'm a very relational person. So those are very important, as you know, but also community, right? Give back. I do a ton in the community, have sat on boards, chaired events. It's nothing I would change for the world. So I'm very busy. So trying to plan a wedding, speaking of that, was a challenge. And one out of the United States. It's a lot, but that is me. I have now a husband, of course, a year and a half married now, and a 19-year-old son and an 18-year-old daughter.
Fantastic. So, Kim, why don't you and Monique explain the destination wedding and the scope of it? Because I think that will surprise folks.
I think what she just said kind of leads into the first question is why you selected a destination wedding, because you have so many friends and family.
Well, it's interesting. So although I live in Phoenix, Phoenix was not, or Arizona, I should say, was not really like even a choice for us. We just didn't want to look into each your own. I think Arizona's got beautiful, beautiful spots, right? But I don't know, we just had like a connection to be out of Arizona. I was actually born in LA, so I've got family in LA, which is a great place as well. But I don't think either of us were really attached to that location either. But we knew right away outside of our home state, and we kept joking about like Jamaica. I don't know why, like just kind of started as a joke. I think our brains just went, wait a minute, outside of the United States. I had gone to a destination wedding, actually one of my best friends eons ago. I was in her wedding and she had it in the Dominican Republic. Mm-hmm. And so I just saw firsthand what that just entailed. Right. And so I felt like that was where I connected to. My husband, was in the Navy. So he's got, had the ability to live in all these different countries. So I knew he had an affinity, so to speak, right, with places outside of the US as well. So I think that's just how we started joking about it. And then we're like, wait a minute, I think
what are we doing here?
Yeah. I think we got to be outside the US.
And maybe thinking, maybe it'll limit the amount of people that'll come to the wedding. So it's not gonna be
there. There was that great idea.
That was a great idea, but a major fail. That was your strategy. Right. Maybe tell people, if it's not clear yet, how big this wedding was.
So, we were initially thinking, how it is when you're planning a wedding. You kind of have some invites on there. And then for anyone who may listen to this, sorry if you think this is you, but you have invites on there that you're like, it's the politics. You gotta invite them, right? But you're like, there's no way they'll come. No way. And we had our list, but of course there's plenty of people you definitely want there. So we just kind of went in. We're like, they're not coming to Jamaica.
No, too far.
Too far. I want to say, what was the list? Maybe 115?
I think you invited about 150. I think there was only a few that didn't make it. I think there was one or two that didn't make it.
So,
everybody loves you. Everybody loves you guys.
Well,
wanted to celebrate you.
We'd like to say it was us, right? That it might have been just the environment at the time.
Combination of
COVID, right? We were still testing in and out of the United States at that time.
That's right.
Even with the fears, right, people had with COVID, I was shocked. All that was out the door. It was like, yep, we're going to Jamaica. So yes, we had, about 80 people that said yes. And we started sweating at about 50. Where we were like, our plan is going.
More people are saying yes.
Right. And we're like, well, we're in a whole other bracket now from a perspective.
We got to think of a different venue over at the resort.
Yeah. I remember having those initial conversations, right? I think we were guesstimating, 40.
Yes.
There's just no way.
Yeah.
Anymore.
And it just got bigger and bigger.
The joke was on me.
Yeah. So this was in February of 2022. So you're right. And we just didn't know leading up what was going to happen. What kind of testing we needed to do. So
there was a lot of rules and parameters. I mean, I think about it. If this was just any other year or, time frame, maybe any other time other than 2020 or 2021, right? I would just think that it would have been, it's much easier. Mm-hmm. It was much easier. And there were just so many obstacles in our way.
Things were just changing.
Yep. That was the toughest part, was all the changes and at levels that you have zero control over, right? Mm-hmm. Government, country rules that were getting in place or set in place. So the prep was tough because the bride and groom cannot get COVID.
No.
So everybody else can have fall off, but we had to get.
You had to get there no matter what.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of work leading up to it. When you're working, you have your career, you have your family, and then you have to plan this wedding in another country with the locals there. So you had a wedding coordinator there. Yep. So you never met any of these people.
Yeah.
And you're relying on them and Jamaica time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Jamaica time is a unique beast. Shout out to Jamaica. Love you. but
Yes.
you have a time set that
So for future brides out there, plan far in advance and
right.
have some
Any island.
Yes.
They're on island time.
So how did you guys choose Jamaica? It was just that was the joke, and
It was kind
that
of
was
like,
just-
it was like a little joke of going off to Jamaica. Now, of course, through the thought process, we did research some other places. I do remember Cabo was one of them, but then I was educated because I really don't know much about Cabo. I've been to many parts of Mexico, but just not Cabo. And I was told you can't really get in the water unless you're on the Sea of Cortez side. And I was like, well, that's no fun. We're not going to go somewhere and not be in the water. But the Sea of Cortez sounded pretty sexy to me. There. So that's when I just started thinking like back to Jamaica. My husband and I just, he had never been. I had been one time before, and the people are friendly, just so friendly. And I remember that. And so I just thought that would be kind of a neat vibe. We also do love reggae music.
yeah.
So that's a vibe for us. We felt an attachment, and we just ended up running with it.
Yeah. How did you guys decide on the specific resort that you settled on?
Well,
Monique
thanks.
found it.
Well, I mean, Kim, I was going to say thanks to her travel
You
agent.
found it.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll tell you how I kind of got there. Backtrack is originally, I didn't know any better. I didn't know how to do this, from over here, but I went online or something and I saw it was like a destination wedding site. Don't know what it was, and so I was like, oh, I'll, say I'm interested in this property. I started looking up some properties, and then they called back and started the process and sending me some information. But it was very salesy. Like it was, approach was just not for me, right? I'm a researcher. I want to know everything about it. I mean, this is a wedding. You got to research, right?
Really
So
important.
yeah, 100% important. And that's definitely something I'll share in this conversation, just all the kind of the things to take away and learn and pass on. But they weren't letting me really do that. It was like pressure. It's like almost I was buying a car. And so I didn't like that feel. And then really, Gary, thanks to you, it was like, wait a minute, I know somebody. And so it just was great timing, right? And honestly, I had just done that prelim work, but from there on out, like when I needed Kim and your expertise to help me, and which was just priceless. So
Yeah, we looked at it several other properties too, and we were close. You were close to deciding on a couple other ones, and it was just something. It wasn't fitting right. It was just something, and you had this gut, like I got to keep looking.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was
Good.
I mean, from everything from like aesthetics, right? You want everything right, but then you're looking at these packages and what you get, and the one thing you have to always think about is not only the flexibility and creativity for yourself as the bride and groom. You want the freedom there and the flexibility, right? But you have to think of the guest. Like there's just so many components. Some of those may have checked the boxes off, some of those, but not the other things. So, I was like trying to find something that really checked off every box, I think, to make everybody happy, comfortable.
You were so nice, and you're thoughtful of those attendees, and they've got to be. It's got to be affordable, and it can't be too far from the airport. I remember these, logistics and family friendly. So it really fit the bill.
There's a whole list of things to think about.
And it's hard. You can't it's almost like a perfect spouse, but it's not 100%, but it was pretty darn close. So.
But yeah, no, thanks to, I mean, it's funny because just when I would think that our options were spent, right? Like we didn't have any additional options. I know like you would find some or, little gems in there because there are a lot in certain countries. There are a ton of options.
Tons of options.
Overwhelming. That is just one thing, I left with is that it is way too overwhelming.
Yeah, I don't know what the numbers in Jamaica or Dominican Republic, but for instance, in the Cancun Playa del Carmen area, there's over 150 resort options. That's mind-boggling. How do you choose? That's what we're here for. But what went well with the with the wedding planning, the day of? Like, what were your highlights? What went well?
So I think one of the big things I right along with the research, right? The communication up front, well before the wedding to your spouse that you're going to marry is huge. But then also the guests, right? And all that prep with invitations, RSVPs, and thank goodness there's systems out there that are free or very affordable where you can manage the RSVPs, QR codes. We had that, right? We try to like modernize it a little bit, but also keep traditional elements in there, right? So like the invitations, very fancy. We splurged a little bit on that. But even that, you've got some cool resources that people make some things now. But then the QR code helped with the RSVPs, which were fed into a back system, which was free and it paid for it. And then even like table arrangements, right, with the RSVPs and organizing that. So that was very helpful. But all that upfront planning and communication is huge, so that when you get there the day of, right, it's destination. So I wanted things for people to do. I wanted education. I wanted them to have to do the least amount of work when it came to their own vacation. Because what I knew is this was most people's year vacation. And so how do you allow them to make the best of it? I didn't want too much programming, where they were constantly, had to be somewhere all the time, even down to the wedding party, right? Like I wanted that flex too for them to enjoy themselves. And so because I just knew the price, they were paying, no matter how much I was cost conscious, I still wanted them to enjoy the trip. So I had welcome bags. It's destination. So you're probably eating a lot of food you wouldn't normally eat and drinking a lot. So stomach aches, headaches, hangovers, having those welcome bags and cards that welcome them and says, we're going to be meeting for a happy hour here. Totally optional, right? We're going to do the rehearsal dinner here for those in the wedding. And then, so it was very limited, must show up to events, but then all those extracurricular activities. So, just trying to educate them on scuba or, all the things that you could do in Jamaica and planning that up front. So that the day of when we arrival is initiated. It's as smooth as it could be. And they were armed with all the information they need to just kind of go and enjoy themselves. So I would have to say like communication was big. It is big before, day of, and throughout all the way. Other than, we did have a little debacle where my husband lost the suitcase. We had 9 luggage bags.
Oh my God.
The one with the groom's suit. Went missing.
Oh no.
Can I ask one question on the 9? So how many were your husbands?
Just that one?
Right. So we had 9, but
definitely dress had its own. The dress had its own. But with, another planning tip is with a destination wedding, I had like the cool print-offs cards for when they arrived and the things that we were doing, the itinerary, so to speak. I had that. I had all those bags with the hangover stuff with, you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
We're 80 people. That's a lot. Right. And so I think they had their own suitcase. I had ordered flowers, real flowers for the aisle because I was trying to be very creative, and the hotels and the resorts will charge you a lot and you get little for your money. So I was like, no problem. Found out with customs what I could bring.
Oh, wow.
Pre-order. So no, I got to be honest. Most of the suitcases were wedding things. The tables, items, the takeaways, the giveaways, menus. You could pre-send, but because it was COVID, there were things that were not in place anymore at that time. So the hotel was not letting us pre-send. And shipping to a foreign country.
That's a big one.
Yep. I think actually you and I talked about that, Kim. Thanks to
unreliable.
It's unreliable. Yeah. Yeah, that was actually you that had educated me on that. So I didn't want to take that risk. We didn't want to take a risk, but then we lost the suit. So
Well, there was a save on that, obviously, because I've seen the pictures and he looked great and you look great.
I know that's such a fun story. The suit got shipped to us about 2 months after the wedding. We got back, and for our 1-year anniversary, we took the suit out. My wedding shoes were in there, and we did a exceptional photo shoot to pay homage to our 1 year, but that we actually had the suit, and so we actually got pictures the way it should have been.
It should have been.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you would have done differently? Sounds like lots of things went well. Anything that you would have done differently?
I can tell you I would probably, so, you have a wedding coordinator there, right? In the location you're getting married at. But again, it's not someone you know. You're assigned that person. You have to work with them no matter what. There were moments where I wanted to pull my hair out, right? To be honest, because it's all unfamiliar to me. So if I could have done it differently, if I didn't have COVID, I would have visited the location first. That would have been kind of cool if you can financially do it, right? But I also found out after the fact that hiring a wedding planner locally to do that work for you with them would be like a lifesaver. But again, there's a cost to it.
Interesting.
But if you can do it, right, I sound so much out after the wedding that a local wedding planner is pretty helpful.
I'm surprised that they would allow something like that, like an outside wedding planner to come in and help coordinate that.
So it would be really like your local presence, or someone within your arm's reach to work, like that work I was doing with talking to my wedding planner there and things like that. Instead of it being me, it would have been them on my behalf. Kind of doing all the things I had to do that were very time consuming. But they tend to know how to negotiate things well, or just lay it all out, or it would have been almost like an assistant, so to speak, to right? That just happens to be a planner to be able to kind of do those things that I had to end up doing. Now, I mean, quite honestly, if I didn't have the travel management element there, like what you offered me, Kim, and the support, it wasn't me. You had to listen to me all the time. But my guests, like that, all the feedback has been just outstanding. Like, I don't know what we would have done. I don't know what we would have done if we didn't have that, because it's destination, and the biggest component next to the ceremony wedding part is the travel, getting everybody to the destination. There was no way I could have managed the rooms.
Yeah, there was so many rooms.
Or even make the guests have to manage that.
And there were some hiccups on the check-in, but that's what I'm here for. They would call me or email me or text me, and we'd get that worked out.
Like knowing that
I didn't want you to deal with that.
I know. But knowing you were on deck was there's just like a sense of comfort, right? Because you're already anxious with everything else. And, needless to say, us with the suit, right? We were on high stress level.
Wow. I didn't realize that until later.
Yeah, and it was midway through getting there that we realized that we didn't have it. They definitely greet you with a rum punch or something right when you walk in. Drinking's easy.
Everywhere you go.
Those rum punches are the best and worst.
Right. Yeah, Gary's been rum punched. Yeah.
That would be what I would do different. I would probably have more of a resource here.
Yeah, and there are some resorts that build in a pre-wedding visit, and may have eliminated that during COVID, of course.
Right.
But there are some resorts that say come for 3 days. It's complimentary if you book a wedding, so that you could visit and get your eyes on everything. And I'm a visual person. I need to see it, touch it, feel it, need to look at it. And so kudos to you for doing it.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And so
what I would not have changed was that travel assistance.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I still don't know how you did it, or, wanted to kill all of us by the end of it. But you were so patient. But the priceless part of it is the feedback, right? How great the guests felt. So I was so glad everyone got to experience that white glove service, is what I call it, I guess, to make it very streamlined.
So for that intrepid soul out there right now thinking, maybe I would like to do a destination wedding. Maybe that's for me. What advice would you give them to make sure they have a great experience?
Oh, good question. So heavy research, first and foremost, heavy research, the areas you want to work, look at. And when I say research, I mean everything from travel nuances, right? Traveling to these different countries, depending on where you're picking. There's so many different rules and things like that. Just be very aware of it so that it's accessible for you and your future spouse, and then like your guests as well, depending on what that looks like. I would say that first, definitely heavy research. Get a travel agent. I mean, honestly, get a travel agent who has experience with their own travel, right? So a lot of different destinations. I'm not sure I'm a big conglomerate type person. I do love like personalized service and, someone very accessible. So again, Kimberly, thank you. I could text you and you text me right back. So that to me is very important. That relational sort of travel management was big for me. And literally we couldn't have done this without, you as a resource, or if anyone's looking at it, I would say a travel agent as well to provide, all that pick up on the research I was doing. It was almost like a toss off, right? A little bit of taking that research on. And then I think it takes a lot of coordination, no doubt about it. Coordinating between families, between travel agent, between the contact at the destination, between your spouse. There's a lot of coordination. The other thing, I guess, would be communication. I think I mentioned it earlier, but the communication and first and foremost, do all this and don't forget why you're doing this, right? You got to keep your spouse in mind. Don't let any of these elements take over, I think, what you and your spouse have, right? So communication is just big. For me, it was important to communicate to guests. I had textability, to have everyone on text, had organized all their addresses, phone numbers. And of course, Kim, that was something you needed as well, but communicate. So it was leading into things about, anything that we were planning and looking at, arrivals, information they needed to even get to you, Kim. You were communicating with them. I think it just as the team, so to speak, right? I say team in quotes to make this happen is the communication. Big. Local wedding planner. I'd see if that to work with any other wedding planner and work with all the moving pieces to me would be the biggest advice. And learn your destination for sure. Learn the destination that you do end up choosing and cultures and, how to communicate with them. And I knew I never wanted to be a bridezilla or anything like that. And respect the destination that you're going to, and you're kind of coming in on their world. So just make it a good time.
Yeah. Smart.
Just have fun.
I love that. Keep your focus on the prize.
Right. We were tested, that suit that's hard to swallow. He had put some special engraving in that suit and everything was excited to show me that day. I mean, just so much work went into it. And when we get there, we literally have to go throughout all of Montego Bay and search for a suit. And it took all day. And the crazy thing is we didn't blame each other. We didn't, because you just have to keep reminding yourself why you're there.
I love that.
And so keep yourselves grounded for sure. Don't get caught up in that riffraff. There's going to be that, and there's going to be stresses, but we made sure to take time every time we woke up. And at the end of the day in our room, looking at the Caribbean Sea, to just have silence and just take a breath. Take a breath.
Can you believe you're here and doing what you're doing?
We're thankful that that we get
and
to
together. Yes.
We got to lose the suit together, right? I call it the Oprah effect. We get to do this because so many people don't have that ability to. So just be thankful.
One of the other things that you did that got my attention was that you intentionally made space for your guests, and you were really cognizant that this was a vacation for them. It's not just come to Monique's party and play part, but come enjoy your vacation and this is part of it, but give them some space. I thought that was really thoughtful.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it is. And you realize with the destination wedding, everyone's in different phases of life, right? We're all different age groups. And for some people, like I said, it's the trip of the year. They bring their kids with them and they make it an event. You get some that are in a next chapter in life and they're like, this is my soul searching. I'm rolling by myself, and then you get, and then you, the couple with no kids, you get the older retired. It is really, and I think that's maybe some advice I would give is as much as this is about your day, for a destination, do think of your guests. They're investing to come and be a part of this with you. So there is a level of, raising up like just the expectation with them and how you treat them. But I learned real quick, I'm like, wow, I got all these stories of why everyone was going and what was going on with them at the time. And so I did want it to be memorable. And I mean, unless they're just feeding me, a bunch of junk, it sounds like it was pretty memorable for a ton of folks, and some of their best trips they've taken was that Jamaica trip. And I'm so glad that I was a part of it with them.
Awesome. I've got a couple other quick questions. One would be, now that you've had this great epic experience, what are some of the other travel experiences that are on your list?
Oh, yes. Kim, I can't wait to talk to you one day about, I need to get to the Maldives.
You and me both. Let's all go.
I mean, it's high up on that list. And I see some friends that post something from there and I'm like, oh. I'd probably say Marseille. That's like a place I want to go to. I think I do want to go to kind of just more exotic places.
Mm-hmm. Off the beaten path.
Off the beaten path. Yeah. That's definitely, kind of our next thing. Again, my husband was in the Navy. He's been to a lot of places. So I'll be like, have you been here or there? And he's like, yes. But I'm always, but it's different when you're not in the Navy. So,
and with me.
Hopefully I can get them back. I do want to hit Greece and there's a list. I have a list.
There is a list.
Maldives is definitely like maybe number one.
I agree with you.
Yes. But maybe I'll take recommendations from you, Kim, any day. Whatever you think.
Yeah, we've been to Tahiti several times and obviously that's our favorite so far to this date. But I feel like if we go to Maldives or Seychelles, that might trump it. But obviously it's the distance. So
yeah, I went to Tahiti too once 100 years ago and I would go back. I would have to agree with you. It is actually probably one of my favorite trips I've ever taken in my life. Mm-hmm. And I can see why you would go back several times.
Easier to get to than the Maldives or Seychelles.
Maybe. See, I don't know. I'm going to have to rely on you. I don't know how hard it is to get to the Maldives. That's my only thing I think with some of these trips is like being convinced, I think, with the travel time, right?
Yes. Flight times. Yeah. I have Bali on my list with a girlfriend of mine in April. We've kind of put it off during the pandemic, of course. And but we keep looking at flights and it's like, oh, that's like 40 hours to get there. I was like, I think I need to stop on the way there and on the way back just to break it up because that's a lot of travel time.
I'm right. Find a couple spots where you can if there are
maybe stop in Tahiti on the way. So
in addition to your weddings, what's been one of your top travel experiences?
I mean, I would honestly say Tahiti. Okay. And the reason why is, I mean, just stunning landscape. I mean, right. And the people, right. I think the culture is fascinating, but we stayed in the overwater bungalows.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell anybody out there listening, if you are ever in an island like that and you have an overwater bungalow to stay in, do it. Mm-hmm. Save a little extra before you go so you can stay in those. Because, well, first and foremost, we did stay a day on land in the huts and it's you and the bugs. So, you may just, when the gecko took a crap on her head, inside or, like, it was like a land hut, basically. Mm-hmm. That's what it was like. Oh, we gotta go. But once we got in the water bungalows, I mean, that is something
real
out of a movie. Yeah. You can just jump off, your little, they call it like the patio deck thing. and just jump into this beautiful, beautiful, clear water. And yeah, just unreal. It's an unreal experience.
Guess we can go back.
Yes.
Right?
Any quick final pieces of advice for a bride or groom planning a destination wedding or a honeymoon?
It's funny because we actually, speaking of that honeymoon, and it could probably tie into my answer, is because we're later in life, so to speak, a midlife, whatever, right? This is our second time around for both of us. We did not attach that honeymoon to the wedding because we have life, right? And a family, and you're already taking a big chunk for the wedding. But for those that want to do it, I think it would be excellent. We ended up taking a trip solo and really celebrating it 8 months later or something, maybe 6-8 months later. So we went somewhere else, but we wish we had more time. So I would look at either going out earlier before all the guests get there and have your quiet time. We were on a flight. Destination wedding, everybody wants to get on your flight.
They want to fly with you.
Right.
They want to fly with you.
Yeah.
And it's never like quiet moments, right? You don't really you have to make them, find them. As I mentioned, like when we woke up or at the end of the day, but that's hard to do, right? With all the moving pieces. So advice would be on the forefront, definitely go a couple days and just don't go out with anybody.
Yeah.
If you can, even if it's just 2 quick days, just get a little bit of time to just...
Or at the end, maybe after the wedding.
At the end. And so we
just say, hey, guys, we're going to go to the XYZ resort for our honeymoon.
And you're not invited.
Yes.
And
bye.
Yes. So we did that at the end. We did. A lot of people left and we had a little bit of our moments after, but you're still there. Some people were still lingering. So if you don't do the honeymoon, no problem. Just buffer it, either the beginning or end, I would say, with some time, because it's just too chaotic. That as much as it sounds great at the time to go, yeah, let's all fly out together. Don't do it.
And maybe on the front end, like you're saying, be ambiguous about your departure date and then just give a big head fake to everybody and go out a couple days early.
Right. Because even if you do the honeymoon and attach it right after, most people change locations. So then that original destination, it just came and went in a big blur, so you still, I think, need a little bit of that buffer time alone.
Great idea.
So you can absorb it all. And then, if you choose to go on a honeymoon somewhere else, great. Or you choose to stay there on the honeymoon, then you'll have it there, of course. But yeah.
It's a great idea. That's the same thing with our wedding. We just got married and came back. But I remember the only thing that we did just on our own, because we got married up in Sedona, we live in Phoenix, was the night before the wedding. There's always that rehearsal dinner and everybody wants to come with you. And I'm like, I'm not going to pay for everybody to come with us. It's paying the next day for a wedding. We'll see you there. So just Gary and I went out to dinner the night before the wedding. It was just the two of us and we could take that moment and just enjoy each other and have that moment before the wedding. And just grab those moments. That's just such a big piece of advice. We did custom vows, and my husband is more of a private person. I'm the people person. He's the private person. And so I wanted to give him an element of that. And I knew him being in front of people for the wedding, it'd be a little difficult to say his vows. So another moment we grabbed for ourselves was we did our vows earlier that day on our wedding to each other. Our personal vows. And we didn't realize that we were doing this. We were going to just do it on our own, by ourselves, not one other soul with us. And we found the space on the resort that we wanted to do it on. And it was so beautiful. And it was just in this quiet area. And the photographer and videographer were like, no, can we come? We want to capture this. Mic'd us up. What?
And we did it. Now, we didn't mind it. I asked him if he minded. He's like, no, you forget. You got to forget you're mic'd up. They're far away from you. And we did it. And we loved it because it ends up in a video that we have for ourselves of our vows. And so, again,
love that.
Capture those moments, however you do it, just don't forget that it's about you too. And that was one of the ways we captured it. A quiet moment. That's priceless, right?
Priceless. Can't replace that. Can't lose that in the luggage.
Right. Nope.
But
Screw the suit.
amazing. This was great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Oh my
much,
gosh,
Monique.
I
This was awesome.
I appreciate being on this and talking to you. And yeah, thank you.
There was a description that I heard on another podcast the other day, and it made me think of you, knowing that this interview was coming up. And it was, she is a ray of sunshine wrapped in skin.
Oh,
Because you're just so happy and bright and positive. And I just love your energy.
Oh, hey, Kim, I love that you could say that after all that we had planned and went through. And then you still think that about me. No,
Absolutely.
But no, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, you gotta just look at the positives of things, right?
Yep.
Monique, was there anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up?
No, I think this has been outstanding. Yeah. And you know what? Give us some recommendations out there where we need to go.
Yeah.
That would be something. Give us some good recommendations.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where our dollar goes far and the experience is just extremely
It's priceless.
Yeah. We will keep you
Give that
advised.
to us, Kim.
Okay. I'm on it. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Good to talk to you again.
Guys. Yeah, absolutely. As always, a pleasure.
And everyone, thank you very much for listening to this. I hope you enjoyed it. Got some great information about destination weddings, and, grab your passport and let's go. Thanks for listening to Passport Required. Please be sure and join the Silverleaf Travel Facebook page so that we can connect with you. It is also a great place to share your own travel tips, experiences, and wisdom with the Silverleaf Travel community.
If you got something out of this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe and also give us a rating and review. We always want to get better, and we will read all of your comments and suggestions for topics so that we can make this podcast the best resource possible. My name is Gary Covert.
And I'm Kim Covert. Thanks for listening, and thank you for being a part of the Silverleaf Travel community.